October 15, 1941, 200 in the morning, 27,000 feet above Cologne, Germany. The air was freezing cold. The silence of the night was broken only by the hum of his own engines. Major Ulrich Vogel, a highly decorated night fighter pilot in the German Air Force, was on patrol. Below him, the industrial heart of the Rhineland was being targeted by a wave of Allied bombers. Vogel was flying the mighty Messerschmitt Bf-110, a top predator of the night skies, equipped with the latest, most advanced radar technology Germany had. Vogel's job was critical. Stop the incoming British bombers, usually the slow, heavy Lancasters or Halifaxes, before they reached their targets. He was confident. His radar system, the Liechtenstein, was the finest in the world, giving him an invisible electronic hand to guide him through the darkness. Suddenly, the radar screen in Vogel's cockpit showed a faint, flickering return. It was small, too fast, and appeared too low on the screen to be a heavy bomber, perhaps a high-altitude night intruder. Vogel pushed his throttle forward, preparing for a high-speed chase. He was fully confident his powerful Messerschmitt could catch anything the British had. But as he got closer, the radar return vanished. It hadn't exploded. It hadn't been hit by anti-aircraft fire. It was simply gone. Moments later, a blinding flash of cannon fire erupted from directly above and behind his position, tearing into the body of his Bf-110. Vogel screamed, fighting the dying controls of his plane as he fell toward the darkness below. He had been ambushed, outrun, and shot down by a ghost he couldn't see. The aircraft that had destroyed Major Vogel's pride, and his plane was not made of the precious aluminum wanted by every air force. It was built almost entirely of wood, glue, and canvas. It was the de Havilland Mosquito, the plane the Germans would soon fear and scornfully call the wooden wonder. The Mosquito was born from crazy ideas and necessity. In the early days of World War II, Britain was facing a critical shortage of aluminum, the metal essential for building aircraft. The official view of the Air Ministry was that all bombers had to be heavy, heavily armed, and built from metal. De Havilland, the manufacturer, proposed a radical alternative: build an unarmed two-man bomber primarily out of wood. The Air Ministry dismissed the idea as ridiculous, a desperate throwback to the flimsy biplanes of World War I. Wood, they argued, was old-fashioned, fragile, and naturally worse than metal in combat. But the Mosquito's chief designer, Geoffrey de Havilland, argued that the strength-to-weight ratio of a stressed, skin plywood monocoque was better than early aluminum construction. By removing defensive turrets and heavy armor, and by using wood, which was abundant and much easier to work with, the plane could be made light, fast, and cheap to produce. The key to this engineering marvel was in the technique known as monocoque construction. The body was built in two halves, molded from a sandwich of thin birch plywood skins, glued around a core of lightweight balsa wood. These two halves were then bonded together, creating a structure that was incredibly strong, rigid, and surprisingly able to handle stress. This method allowed for a smooth, aerodynamic skin with minimal rivets or joints, further contributing to its speed and stealth. The construction methods were more like furniture making than traditional labor-intensive metal aircraft assembly. This allowed the work to be spread out to small shops and cabinet makers who did not compete for specialized metal workers. The proposal was initially met with fierce political resistance. Senior officers argued strongly against an unarmed bomber. They believed any aircraft operating over enemy territory must be able to defend itself with machine guns and heavy armor. De Havilland countered with the single decisive philosophy that defined the Mosquito: speed is its own defense. If a plane could fly fast enough, it didn't need guns to shoot down fighters, and it didn't need armor to protect against anti-aircraft fire. It simply flew past the threat. This philosophy was revolutionary for the time and eventually won over key supporters. Though the plane was only initially approved for production as a fast reconnaissance aircraft, an unarmed spy plane, this initial skepticism was a blessing in disguise. The forced focus on the reconnaissance role meant the design was kept clean, light, and focused purely on speed. This ensured the Mosquito maximized the performance potential of its two powerful roles: Royce Merlin engines. The resulting combination of lightweight, wooden airframe and twin engines gave the Mosquito a top speed exceeding 400 miles per hour for much of the war, a speed that was faster than any operational German fighter aircraft during its early deployment. The Germans, relying on technology and steel, were being outfought and outmaneuvered by an aircraft they considered an engineering embarrassment. The use of wood gave the Mosquito its low radar cross section, RCS. Wood absorbs radar energy much more effectively than metal, meaning the Mosquito had an extremely small radar signature. For German radar operators, the Mosquito appeared as nothing more than a faint blip, a mere distraction, a ghost that often vanished entirely from their scopes. This perfectly explains Major Vogel's fatal encounter. Crucially, the success of the wooden design depended on the enormous Canadian capacity for wood processing. Canada, with its vast forestry resources and established woodworking industry, was immediately identified as the ideal location for mass production. Canadian factories from Montreal to Toronto were quickly retooled to laminate the layers of birch plywood and balsa wood. This spreading out of the production process, relying on non-strategic materials and non-specialized labor, solved the immediate crisis of aluminum shortage that plagued Britain's own production lines. The Mosquito, the wooden oddity produced cheaply in Canada, was about to become the most versatile, fastest, and by grim necessity, the deadliest multi-role aircraft the Allies possessed. Its primary targets would soon be the very night fighters of the German Air Force, beginning a high-stakes game of cat and mouse in the darkness. Mid-1942, the airfields of RAF Coastal Command, Britain. The skepticism that had plagued the Mosquito's development quickly disappeared when the aircraft was put into full operational service. By the middle of 1942, the Canadian-built wooden wonder was no longer a theoretical curiosity. It was a devastating reality that forced the German Air Force to entirely reconsider its air defense doctrine. The Mosquito's speed was not just an impressive number. It was a revolutionary weapon. Its lightweight, highly aerodynamic wooden body, combined with two powerful supercharged rolls, Royce Merlin engines allowed the plane to fly faster than anything the German Air Force could reliably send up against it. In a straight dash, the Mosquito could outpace even the formidable Foch, Wolf W190. Speed became its armament. Initially used as a high-altitude photo reconnaissance aircraft, the Mosquito proved immediately indispensable. It flew over targets deep within Germany and occupied Europe, capturing crucial intelligence photos. The rule was simple. If an enemy fighter scrambled to intercept, the Mosquito pilot simply pushed the throttle to maximum and flew away. The aircraft became famous for successfully completing missions without a single defensive weapon, relying entirely on its evasion capability. The German response to these unarmed, fast intruders was one of deep frustration. German pilots trained to respect the power and armor of four. Engine bombers found themselves chasing an enemy that registered weakly on their radar and vanished as soon as they approached top speed. The Mosquito was dubbed the scourge of the skies, and its existence was a painful reality. Every mission meant the diversion of scarce German fighter fuel and pilot hours, often for no result. The true versatility of the design led to rapid modifications, transforming the Mosquito into the definitive multi-role aircraft of the war. Fast bomber, the PR Mark IV stripped of all non-essential equipment. The bomber version could carry a respectable bomb load of up to 2,000 pounds, 907 kilograms, and deliver it with speed and precision, often attacking high-value pinpoint targets that were too dangerous for the larger, slower bomber streams. The Mosquito frequently performed daylight raids that German air defenses could do nothing about, often dropping bombs and escaping before the anti-aircraft batteries could get a lock. Maritime strike, the FB Mark V, modified with solid nose armament, 4 20mm cannons and 4 303 machine guns. The Mosquito became a deadly anti-shipping and ground attack aircraft, performing low-level attacks on trains and other targets across Europe. Its speed allowed it to appear suddenly, inflict maximum damage, and disappear before ground defenses could react effectively. However, the Mosquito's most critical and terrifying role to the German Air Force was its conversion into the deadliest night fighter. In the pitch blackness, the Mosquito's stealth qualities, its small radar cross section combined with the quiet operation of its twin Merlin engines, gave it a huge advantage. Equipped with a powerful new AI's airborne interception radar, the Mosquito night fighter squadrons began systematically hunting down the German night fighter force over their own territory. For German night fighter pilots, the war became a desperate game of electronic hide and seek. They were accustomed to tracking the large mass and metal signature of the Allied bombers, but facing the Mosquito was like fighting a phantom. The German Liechtenstein radar struggled to pick up the wooden body, and the Mosquito pilots, often working with early radar jamming techniques, became masters of the unexpected ambush. They would fly alongside the German night fighters, undetected before launching a devastating barrage of 20mm cannon fire at close range. German high command was bewildered. They couldn't understand why their most advanced radar units were consistently failing to detect these fast intruders. They suspected a breakthrough in British jamming technology, never fully grasping the simplest answer: the material of the airplane itself. They had dismissed wood as primitive, yet wood was the ultimate stealth material of the early 1940s. The Canadian-built Mosquito squadrons, operating out of bases in Britain, became famous for their aggressive tactics, often flying intruder missions deep into Germany. Their mission was to disrupt the German defense system by attacking German Air Force airfields and hunting German night fighters as they landed or took off. This psychological pressure eroded German morale and disrupted the entire night defense structure. The overall impact was undeniable. The Mosquito forced the Germans to continually upgrade their radar systems and deploy their fastest fighters in defensive roles, draining resources from the offensive front. The cheap wooden plane, initially scorned by Allied and Axis officials alike, had become the single most effective high-speed psychological weapon in the Allied arsenal. It was a victory of bold engineering over conventional military thinking. Late 1943, the coastal defenses of the North Sea. By the final months of 1943, the de Havilland Mosquito had changed from a curiosity into a strategic nightmare for the German High Command. They now understood the threat, but they still lacked an effective countermeasure. The core of the Mosquito's lethality was not just its blistering speed, but its unique composition, which offered passive stealth capabilities decades ahead of its time. The German Air Force's main defense depended on radar technology, while the Allies' heavy bombers built from aluminum provided massive, clear returns on the Liechtenstein radar scopes. The Mosquito, made primarily of wood and glue, often appeared as little more than a bird or atmospheric clutter. This ultra-low radar cross-section, RCS, allowed the Mosquito to fly at high altitudes over heavily defended targets, effectively invisible to the very technology designed to intercept it. This inherent stealth gave the Allies a devastating new tactical option: precision surgical bombing. While the large formations of Lancasters and B-17s were necessary for area bombing, striking industrial zones in mass, the Mosquito was deployed for high-value targets that required absolute accuracy and minimal casualties, primarily to the civilian population. These missions, often flown in daylight to maximize precision, became legendary for their boldness. The Mosquito flew at treetop level, exploiting the element of surprise that its low radar signature provided. Two missions in particular cemented the Mosquito's reputation for surgical lethality. Operation Jericho, Amiens Prison Raid. A critical mission to breach the walls of Amiens Prison, freeing French resistance fighters who were facing immediate execution by the Gestapo. This required the Mosquitoes to fly at exceptionally low altitudes, literally skimming the ground to avoid radar, and drop bombs with pinpoint accuracy onto specific walls of the prison while avoiding the prison hospital. This was a mission of such high risk and precision that only the Mosquito, with its speed and small size, could attempt it. The operation was a stunning success, with the planes escaping before the German garrison could mount an organized defense. The Gestapo headquarters raids. Perhaps the most humiliating for the German leadership were the attacks on the Gestapo and Security Service SD headquarters in places like Oslo and Copenhagen. These raids were psychological warfare designed to demoralize the German occupation forces and boost local resistance. The Mosquitoes would fly in fast and low, dropping delayed, fuse bombs with stunning accuracy directly onto the command buildings. The sheer audacity of attacking the nerve center of the Reich's secret police in broad daylight underscored the Mosquito's complete dominance of the low-altitude airspace. The German response to these humiliating raids was one of stunned frustration. Pilots who were lucky enough to spot the Mosquitoes realized they couldn't catch them. They reported encounters with an aircraft that was made of paper which flew like a devil. The term Mosquito Panic entered the vocabulary of the German Air Defense Force. The psychological toll was immense. Fighter pilots wasted fuel and time chasing phantoms, while the public began to understand that the Reich's air defenses were powerless against this wooden menace. The Canadians, who continued to produce a significant portion of the Mosquito fleet, took pride in the irony. They were building the ultimate expression of modern air power using materials traditionally associated with furniture and canoes. Canadian production simplified the aircraft's design even further, making it one of the easiest aircraft to repair in the field. Damage that would have required specialized aluminum welding on a metal aircraft could often be patched with wood and glue by a skilled carpenter. A testament to the practical genius of its construction. By late 1943, the German Air Force was forced to commit an increasing number of their best interceptors to a defensive role against the Mosquito. Every time a German fighter was diverted to chase a fast, wooden spy plane, it was one less fighter available to defend the bomber streams or challenge Allied air superiority over the Western Front. The Mosquito, in its quiet, speedy way, was systematically eroding the German Air Force's fighting strength, proving that in the skies of the Second World War, the best material for warfare was not always steel, but simple, strong Canadian plywood. Post-war era 1945 and beyond, the hangars of Canada. When the war ended in 1945, the de Havilland Mosquito had earned the right to be called a legend. It had flown over 39,000 operational missions, suffering remarkably low losses compared to its counterparts. The plane the Germans scornfully dubbed the Wooden Wonder, Saarholzwunder, had ironically become a term of grudging respect, a testament to its revolutionary performance. The end of the war, however, presented a unique problem for the Mosquito. Its brilliant design relied on wood and glue, materials that broke down quickly when exposed to the weather and were difficult to maintain over the long term. Unlike metal aircraft, which could be mothballed and stored for decades, the Mosquito's laminated structure required continuous climate control and specialized care. As the focus of air forces shifted to the jet age, thousands of these incredible wooden warriors were quickly scrapped or left to rot. Despite its physical disappearance from the skies, the legacy of the Mosquito persisted, particularly in Canada. Canadian factories, which had built a massive portion of the Mosquito fleet, often simplifying the design for mass production, had trained a new generation of aerospace engineers, carpenters, and technicians. The experience of rapidly manufacturing a high-performance aircraft from non-strategic materials provided a vital industrial foundation that would support Canada's future in aviation and defense manufacturing. The Mosquito proved that Canadian ingenuity, combined with its vast natural resources, could compete on the world stage of high-tech manufacturing. The Mosquito's most enduring technical legacy lies in the concept of passive stealth. Decades before the F-117 Nighthawk or the B-2 Spirit popularized radar, absorbent materials, and angular design, the Mosquito demonstrated the immense tactical advantage of a small radar cross-section. Its wooden airframe provided a natural immunity to the era's radar technology, proving that material choice could be as crucial as speed or firepower. This simple wooden design became the grandfather of modern stealth technology. The multi-role concept, too, was forever redefined by the Mosquito. It was a fighter, a bomber, a reconnaissance aircraft, and a pathfinder, all in one unified airframe. This versatility set a new standard for military planners, establishing the importance of a single adaptable platform capable of performing a wide range of missions, maximizing efficiency and minimizing logistical strain. For the pilots who flew the Mosquito, the memories were of sheer exhilaration. They often recounted the sheer confidence of knowing they were flying the fastest operational aircraft in the sky. To be chased by a German night fighter and simply pull ahead, watching the enemy fade away, was a profound, life-affirming experience. The Mosquito was a pilot's dream light, responsive, and seemingly invincible. The final recognition for the wooden wonder came through history and memory. Aviation enthusiasts and restorers, facing the unique challenges of preserving a wooden warplane, began painstakingly rebuilding the few remaining airframes. These restorations, using the original Canadian techniques of birch and balsa lamination, serve as powerful, tangible reminders of the genius that defied conventional wisdom. They are physical testaments to the triumph of the designers who believed that simplicity and speed were superior to heavy armor. The Mosquito remains a powerful symbol of Allied ingenuity and the surprising results that can emerge when necessity forces radical thinking. It is a story that emphasizes that the greatest breakthroughs are often found outside the traditional, established boundaries. If the ingenious design of the Mosquito and its stealth capabilities shocked you, there are countless other unbelievable aviation stories from World War II waiting to be told. Don't miss a single deep dive into military history. Please hit that subscribe button right now. Your support fuels our research into these incredible stories. The Mosquito's place in history is secure. A plane that cost less, was built from non-strategic materials, and yet outflew and often outfought the best that the Axis powers could deploy. It was a victory of engineering brilliance over bureaucratic inertia, and a shining example of Canada's quiet yet profound contribution to winning the air war. What do you consider to be the most revolutionary, unconventional aircraft of the war besides the Mosquito? Was it the German jet technology or something else entirely? Share your thoughts and historical insights in the comments below.